Welcome back to another episode, family. We made it to episode 5, the Listen Man podcast. The show, that's for fans by a fan. I just want to take a minute to thank you guys very, very much for all the support. Appreciate all of the comments, the thoughts, the opinions. It means so much to me. So keep them coming. I want to hear from you. I want to figure out a way to make the show more pleasing and more enjoyable to you. So let's make the fans' voice the loudest that's out there. That's the purpose of this podcast. And this episode today is going to really highlight back to the original purpose of this show even being created. So I hope you enjoy. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, follow, and as I always say, man, share, and share. Anybody that likes sports, send them my way. We'll treat them good over here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into show and episode number 5. Let's go. Welcome to the Listen Man Show. I'm your host, Kevin, aka Kevy Kev, aka Big Kev, aka, as I always say, man, you can call me anything you want to as long as it sounds cool and it starts with a K. This episode today is going to be an intriguing one. Is sports overrated? What a topic, right? You're probably thinking, man, where's Kev going to go with this one? Well, we're not going to get too deep into it. It's not going to be too heavy, but it is something that made me think about why I created the show. The reason why I created the show is because as fans, we get so wrapped up into sports and our perspective counts that I wanted our voices to be heard because I feel like it's missing out there on so many different shows that look at it from different perspectives. But oftentimes our perspective is not represented well, in my opinion. So I wanted to have something that showed fans' perspective, but also highlighted how it affects our lives because sports and life are intertwined. That really is the essence of this show. So last week there was a new podcast that started, which I actually like, with LeBron and JJ Reddick. Mind the Game. It's an excellent podcast. If you haven't seen it, check it out. They break down the game. It's a pretty slick little thing if you love basketball. But in that show, LeBron said something very, very interesting that made me think about this episode today. This is where it came from. Take a listen. LeBron said,
When it comes to discipline, it's like you have to sacrifice loved ones. You have to sacrifice loved ones for a long period of time if you want to be great. It is very unfortunate, and you feel it at times.
isn't that an interesting thought that he said in order to be great, one, you have to have discipline, but you also would have to sacrifice your family for years. That got me thinking. As fans, do we feel that sports is overrated? Have you ever thought about that? It just honestly got me thinking, like, we root for teams and players will play, like LeBron said, to be great. And there's nothing wrong with that. We root for that. We like seeing greatness on a daily basis. But I just often wonder, when it comes to life, are sports overrated? For example, as fans, do we ever stop and really think like how much sports actually influence our life? Like, think about it. We spend money. We oftentimes will schedule our day around sporting events. If we go to sporting events, we organize travel and stay and visits. We have to plan in advance. We sacrifice money. These things are things that really affect us on a daily basis when it comes to fans. So, it does affect our life. So sports and life kind of go hand in hand because our life tends to change a bit because of sports. And if you're like me, you support a team or teams, and you have no problem staying up late to watch them play, especially if you don't get a chance to see them play that often. Like in the NFL, they only get to play one time a week. So if it's a late Sunday night game, more likely you're going to stay up and watch it, especially if it's a good or it's a close game, right? So it does shape and mold our life to some degree as fans. Think of it. Some fans get so worked up, right? They watch their team play. Maybe if it's like the NFL, you only get to see them on a Sunday night. And so you sacrifice your Sunday before you go to work on Monday to stay up late and watch your team play. Some fans get so worked up if their team loses that for the next few days their family has to stay away from them. Like the game was Sunday and now it's Wednesday, you're cooking dinner, they're banging pots and pans in the kitchen, they're burning the food because they're still so upset over the game on Sunday. But if they were to go to some of the players on the team's Instagram or social media, those players would have pictures of them in some island somewhere, relaxing and having a good time on the beach. So sometimes as fans can take it harder than the actual players do. So we sacrifice as well as fans. And that's where the balance to me has to come into play. What are we sacrificing as fans? And for those fans that are like that take it that difficult and that hard, those are the fans that I ask, are sports overrated when it comes to life? So when LeBron made that comment, it just kind of got me thinking like, man, are sports overrated? Because oftentimes what happens is later in life, you see individuals say like Michael Jordan, who reflect on that same attitude, and he probably had it worse than anybody as far as that drive to be great. And Mike would sacrifice any and everybody in order to be great, just like LeBron said. But if you remember, there was a documentary that came out, and in it, Michael Jordan broke down. He started crying because he began to examine the type of person and player that he was, the type of teammate and friend he was. Probably reflected on how it affected his family for that greatness. And so it just made me think, like, man, I wonder if he could change that, would he? Like, if he could have those long-term relationships now, what would he be willing to trade in for that? I think, like, would he be willing to trade in one of his 6 championships to have a little bit more time with his father before his father sadly was killed? That's the life part of sports. Is that despite how much joy or pain it brings to us, life unfortunately has to go on. And then we kind of look back at certain moments and we may even look at it and say, I can't even believe I wasted my day waiting for that game and then my team lost. And then we get upset about it. So our sports are overrated in that degree. I just can't help but think, like, in all seriousness, from a fan, like we love our teams, we love players, we love to see that type of greatness. But I do have to ask myself oftentimes, like, what is it worth sacrificing? Even for us as fans, we have to work. What are we willing to sacrifice for work? Like, do we lose joy because we have to sacrifice our family for prestige or for whatever we're looking for in work? I don't know. So that question that LeBron or that statement that he made was truly impactful as we think about sports and how it affects our life. Right. And I get it. Most of them want to be great because of the backgrounds that they grew up in. Very similar to many of us, right? Growing up in Pittsburgh, didn't have a lot. My father got laid off. He worked for a steel mill. And so we did the whole thing, right? Like eating beans. We got the brown box of cheese, the government cheese, as they say, but still is some of the best cheese that's out there. I don't care what anybody says about it. Makes the best grilled cheese. If you ever had it, y'all know. Y'all put it on a Texas toast, broil it underneath the oven. Best grilled cheese sandwich ever, hands down. So don't knock that. Don't knock that. But we all grew up that way, right? Like this image right here probably stands out to you. Isn't that true? Like seeing that picture, that bread was universal. It was everything. Now, many professional athletes grew up like that. They grew up in inner cities. We see in Major League Baseball, many who come from the Dominican Republic and other places, Cuba, they struggle. So for them, their whole aim is to make it, to take their family with them, and if they have families of their own, to make sure that their children don't have to suffer through what they suffer through. So we all can understand those things. We understand where greatness comes from and that striving to better your life. Again, life gets involved with sports. But the idea of sacrificing family and loved ones for it is what caused me to just pause for a second and say, man, is sports overrated? Like, what do we sacrifice for sports? And if you really stop and think about it, probably 98% of our teams don't give us back what we give it, right? Like I said, think about it. You take time out of your day to watch. Sometimes you tailgate. Sometimes you go and you spend money on food to cook out on the grill for certain games. You have friends over. You spend money on shirts and hats and paraphernalia that you can put up in your rooms. And only one team can win a championship. And most of the time, it's not our team, unfortunately. So our teams tend to give us more heartache and grief than joy. But that's part of being a fan. It's that idea that our team can make it and anything can happen on any given day. That's the excitement of being a fan. But when we think about what we actually give as fans, like what do we sacrifice for? That becomes the question to me. Even if we win, like what do we like what do we give up for it? Here's the story. Listen. I remember when the Pittsburgh Steelers played the Arizona Cardinals in the Super Bowl. One of the best Super Bowls to me ever. I just hands down. It was like ups and downs. It was a roller coaster ride of emotions that whole game. I remember right before halftime, James Harrison caught an interception and he ran it back 99 yards. I probably ran that 99 yards with him around my living room, out on my porch, all the way until he scored, screaming along the way. My neighbors hated me that night. Because then later in the game, if you remember, Ben Roethlisberger with no time left on the clock threw a dart into the corner of the end zone to Santonio Holmes. He gets both of his toes down, and the referees call it a touchdown. Boom. As soon as they give that signal that it's a touchdown and they clarify that it's good, I was outside literally running down the street screaming. Because I was so happy that my team won the Super Bowl. This is a true story. My neighbors probably was ready to call the police on me because I'm literally screaming at like 11:30 at night because I'm that excited that we won the Super Bowl. Now here's where life kicks in. I was as a fan, like I was losing my mind. Greatness was seen, it was on display. But guess what I had to do the next day? Go to work.
Hey, you know what my grandfather says? What? Get back to work.
I couldn't put a sign up on my store and say, sorry, closed for the week because my Steelers won the Super Bowl. I would lose clients, I would lose money, I would potentially lose my livelihood. So I had to go to work. Do you think my employees wanted to hear about the Steelers winning the Super Bowl? No. So I had to keep it to myself. Nobody really cared because their team didn't win. So in life, it was like, okay, we won. Then what? I put my terrible towels up because the season was over, and I was on to the NBA. And that's where life kind of comes into play. Like we move on to the next thing. And so is it overrated? Here's a question for you. If I was to ask you, who won the 2009 championship? It could be NBA, it could be NFL, it could be Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer. Pick a sport, men or women's. Could you tell me if I gave you 5 seconds? Could you tell me who it was? And then on top of it, tell me who the most valuable player was of that championship team. We're talking greatness, right? That's what LeBron said, greatness. So whoever won was great. Whoever was the MVP was great. But do you remember who it was? Or are you on your phone Googling it right now, trying to find out who it was? But more likely you're Googling it because as time goes on, life goes on, and we forget. We forget. It just bows the question of, is sports overrated? Because it is life. Here's another question for you. I think of the car dealership that I get my cars from. Cool dealership, the people are great, been dealing with the same salesman for years. And every December I get a card in the mail from them. It's from my car dealership, and he handwrites a note telling me how much he appreciates me buying cars, bringing them up for service, the whole nine. I get a card, a personalized card from him showing appreciation for me supporting them throughout the course of the year. So as a fan, think of your favorite team or your favorite player that you support, that no matter what, if they get traded, you're going to buy the new jersey with whatever team they go to. If they're a free agent and go to that, you're buying that jersey, you're spending money, whatever it is. Think of that. Think of that. When was the last time you got a card from your favorite team or your favorite player saying, thank you very much for being a fan? It doesn't happen, does it? It just doesn't happen. I mean, take your favorite player, right, on social media. Have you ever tried to DM them and just say, hey, I'm your biggest fan. I just want to tell you, man, you had a great game tonight. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. You ever get a response back? No. Most of the time, we do it to comment with other people that are commenting more so than we are the person that we're actually commenting their page. Like, it's just how it is. We don't expect that out of them, but yet we give so much. We sacrifice a lot as well as fans. So the question is are sports overrated in the grand scheme of things? Are they overrated the way that we as fans, fanatics, tend to view our teams and our players? Possibly. Possibly. And we could forget like time moves. Time moves. And so we just want to make sure like things stay in a proper perspective. We love greatness. We love our sports. We love it. But man, if we had the mentality that some of the players have to sacrifice everything for it, it does seem like it could be a little overrated based on the fact that many athletes later in life look back and say, man, I wish I would have did this. Or maybe I still would be married to this person had I not did these things because of wanting to be great or what came with greatness. Maybe my relationship with my children would be better had I not sacrificed them to be great. So it just kind of caused me to think about greatness in that way. We enjoy seeing it, but what are we willing to sacrifice for? Even on our jobs, like we strive to be great, but it has its place, right? Things have its place, and we'll even set boundaries. Like we'll say, like, look, we'll do so many things, but there's certain things we're not going to do, right? Because of life, we still want to enjoy life. But sometimes as fans, when it comes to sports, we may not do that. We don't realize what we actually sacrifice, only to realistically, in many ways, be disappointed because only one team wins the championship. And oftentimes it's not our team. And even when it is our team, life moves on and we can kind of forget about it. And then we're on to the next thing, or we're on to thinking about, man, what's going to happen next year? I hope we can win it again. So life and sports intertwine. That's the reason for the podcast, is to look at how sports affects life and how life can affect sports, because the two go hand in hand. So do we enjoy greatness? Absolutely. Was LeBron right that in order to be great, you have to sacrifice certain things? Absolutely. But when is that sacrifice more than it needs to be for sports? That's a question. Again, I can understand so many of them wanting to get out of bad situations. But I think about it like this. Even in those situations, man, think of the joy that came out of those situations. And sports does add joy to our life. We're not saying that. I'm not saying that. I still love my Steelers. I'm still going to root for them. I'm still going to root for my teams that I like in the NBA and players that I like. I'm still going to root for certain teams in Major League Baseball. I've been to Pirate games, even though they stink. Support them. Hoping my Penguins do something this year. We're still fans. But I hope just thinking about what LeBron said, this kind of puts things in perspective for us as to what we're willing to sacrifice as fans for our teams. And hopefully it means that our families can be involved with us in this journey of being fans. And if they're not truly sports fans, then maybe we find time to do some other things with them as well. We don't want to sacrifice our family and our loved ones for the sake of being fans. Just my thoughts. It's something I thought about. Like I said, whether you win or lose, our favorite players are going to be somewhere exotic, enjoying themselves. And sometimes we take the losses harder than they do. And sometimes we take the wins a step further than they do as well. So I guess the purpose is to be balanced. Enjoy your sports. Enjoy that time that you have with your family if you're doing that with them. If it's just you and your family that like sports, enjoy the sports. But man, balance it out. Spend time with your fam. Spend time with your close friends. Be there for the ones that have been there for you since day one. Don't ever let the sports overtake it to where you sacrifice those types of things to be a great fan. So again, I just wanted to highlight that today. It got me thinking. In the grand scheme of things, is sports overrated? What do you think? Do you think it's overrated? How much time do you spend? How much money do you spend? How much efforts do you put in to being a fan? What have you sacrificed? And would you give some of that back if it could make changes in your life in a positive way? Just questions. Let me know in the comments. I really want to hear from you. In fact, I really want to do a show in the near future to where we just kind of look at the comments and maybe touch on some of the previous shows. So if you haven't had a chance to catch up, make sure that you catch the link in the bio and go catch up on episodes 1 through 4. I hope you enjoyed this episode. A little different from the other ones. That's the point of the show. Is not to be the same cookie cutter as every show that's out there. This is to look at things the way that we're going to look at them as fans. So thank you for taking time out to spend it with me. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that thumbs up. Make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you follow. And man, I can't say it enough. Thank you. If you like it, share it. Share it with those that you care about. Share it with people you don't like. If they like sports, send them my way. I'll be more than glad to take care of them over here. So again, as I always say, let's make the fans' voice the loudest that's out there. I'll see you next episode. Stay positive. Keep smiling. Be balanced, fans. Be balanced, my family. Let's have fun. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday with a fresh new look on a fresh new topic. Let's go.